Hello and welcome to the final Catdigan tutorial, which is how to work the button bands. We're going to do 3 steps. So the first thing we're going to do is to do surface crochet along the edge. Then we're going to do the back part, which is just in double crochets, and then we're going to do the front part, which is a little bit trickier, and I will show you all the stitches you need for that, and including making the buttonholes. If you start with the non-buttonhole band, then it will be easier because you'll have done one band without having to think about the holes. So we're going to start off with the contrast here. Now you won't do it in contrast colours, you'll be doing it all in the same colour, and we'll wait and see what that looks like. So to start off with, we're going to make a slip knot, and we're going to pop that onto our hook, which I can't see through the screen. Aha, that's it. Okay, so we're going to pop that on a hook. Now we want to be snug but loose, if that makes any sense whatsoever. We need to be looser than we would usually with slip stitch, although slip stitch you always concentrate on being a little bit looser. We also want to work so that the chain part of the surface crochet is going to be on the front of the cardigan. Because we work the back band first, if we only have one line of stitches rather than 2, which I'll show you what I mean in a second, then it will be harder to do the ones through 1. So when we're doing our surface crochet to start off with, and it can be the top or the bottom, to start off with we're going to have our loop on our hook, and we're just going into that chain space at the top, and we're going to yarn over and pull it through, and then pull it through the loop that was on our hook. Now this is the one we don't want it to be too tight. In actual fact, it's the back where we don't want it too tight, and I'll show you in a second. So we're going to do 1 chain for every row. So pull that through and then pull it through there so that it's nice and loose. On one row we can either go into the space there or there. So can you see that we've got like 1 strand in between, or you can go in there, doesn't really matter. I'm going to go in there, yarn over, pull it through, try and pull it through loosely so that the back is as loose as you can get, and then pull it through the front. And then on the next row we're going in where the double crochet was. So that's where that double crochet we've just gone in the side of. This one is going in the bottom, where the bottom of that double crochet is. It's quite easy to see once you get going. So you're going to go in the side, and then you're going to go in kind of almost like the bottom. We're making sure that we do 1 loop per row. Very important, 1 loop per row, because when we add our band we're going to need to have that be correct. Now as we're going through, you can see this is nice and close to the edge, a little bit loop there, but you can see on the back it is actually quite tricky to keep these loops as loose as you need to so that they are visible. You can see that it kind of goes 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, but we're going to get down to the end and I will see you there. When you're doing it on the split double crochet part, then you just go in 1 thread from the edge so that you're as close to the edge as you can get without being over. Now if you've needle felted that edge, you go into the stitch that is closest to it. And as we get to the end here, we've got I think 3 more to go. So I've got 1 there and 1 here, and one here at the end, and then we'll just fasten off as we would normally. Pull that tight, snip that loop. So as you can see the chain on the front, and you have one loop on the back. It is better if this part of your surface crochet is on the back, because that way the first bit that we do will be pulling on the single stitch, and you'll still have 2 stitches to find when you're working on the front. So it just might make it easier. And then the next thing we're going to do is the back part. Our next step is to do the inside of the button bands, and I'm going to show you the one where we're doing the buttonholes, as that is trickier than the other side. I'm going to start off with a slip knot, and our first stitch is going to be a standing double crochet. So we're going to work into our first stitch here. Now your surface crochet will have gone down past your rib as well as be up into your split double crochets and the rib at the top. Now you can see that I'm struggling. So this first row you might also want to do with a smaller hook. But we're going to do a standing double crochet into the first loop, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet in each of the loops. And as you can see, it can be a tiny bit fiddly getting into those loops. Once you get into a rhythm, it's absolutely fine, but we're actually working into that loop from the surface crochet. If this is the same colour, then it's going to be tricky. Do watch out for those little ones that hide. So sometimes you'll get like one fairly big one and then one tiny one, but you have to treat them all the same and make sure that you have got a double crochet going into each of these loops. As we come along now, we're going to just go along here, and as you can see, as you're going along, it does get easier to spot them, but sometimes they are a bit fiddly. Make sure you just go under the surface crochet, just the single one. What you will notice is that as you do this, these will start to tighten up in comparison with those, because you're pulling the loop through. Okay, this is why we have to do that surface crochet loosely. As we add to it, it's going to be tighter. Okay, so just straight double crochets all the way along, and I will see you at the end. So you're now rejoining us at the end of here, and we're just doing our last stitch in here, and then we're going to do 1 chain to turn, and we are not counting that chain as a stitch. So the next stitch is going straight back into the double crochets. Now you'll be very pleased to know that for the bands we're going to do quite a few rows of just doing double crochet, which is kind of a relief after everything else that we've been doing. So we're just going to work back along here in our button band, and we're just going to do double crochets all the way along. Careful not to do a chain. I nearly went to do a chain just then. It's quite tempting after doing tweed stitch, so just be careful that you don't do that, and I will see you in a short while. And here we are at the end of row 2. We do the same thing. We're going to make a chain, and turn, and then we're going to work back along here. We're going to do 2 more rows before we mark our buttonholes. So for the button calculation, I will try and show you what I did. I have 138 stitches total from top to bottom. I have 7 buttons that I want to put on, and I'm going to start off by saying I'm going to have 5 stitches at the top, 5 stitches at the bottom, and then evenly spaced between. So that means that we're going to use 10 stitches. We're also going to use 21 stitches, which is 7 times 3, for the spaces. So the actual spaces use 3 stitches each, which gives us 21 stitches. So that's a total of 31 that we're going to take from 138. So we're going to do 138 stitches, take away the top and bottom stitches, and take away the actual stitches that we use for the buttonhole, which will give us a total of 107 stitches. If you're with me now, we're going to use that, so we're going to say 107 stitches, and we're going to divide that by 6, which is the amount of spaces that we've got. So although we have 7 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the spaces will be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because we've already decided we're using 5 each side here. So we do that calculation. You will need a calculator for that, and that will be 17.8 stitches. Now I'm quite good at crochet, but even I can't make a 0.8 of a stitch, but it's very close to 18 stitches. So we're going to reverse this calculation, so it's a multiplication, and we're going to say we're going to have 18 stitches between the buttons. We're going to times that by 6, and that will give us 108 stitches left. Now if we've got our 138 stitches, we've got 21 stitches for the buttons, so we're taking that away from 38, and we're taking away our 108 stitches, which is what we've calculated will be the distance between. We're actually left with 9 stitches. 9 stitches means that we can do 4 stitches at the start and 5 stitches at the end of our button band. So what we'll do is, as we're doing our buttons, we are going to do 4 stitches at the top, we're going to do 3 for our button band, and then we're going to do 18 stitches and then leave 3 for the button band, 18 stitches 3, 18 stitches 3, 18 stitches 3, 18 3, 18 3, and then 5 stitches at the bottom. It seems like it's a complicated calculation. It isn't really. Hopefully this will help. If you have any questions, just email me and I'll work it out for you. We have now done our 4 rows of double crochet, and we're going to do our buttonhole row. So this is where we're going to make the holes for the buttonholes. I have got 27 stitches, and so we're going to work that out with 2 buttonholes in this length here. So I'm going to do my first chain, and then I'm going to do 5 double crochets and a buttonhole. So we're going to do 1. You will have worked out your own calculation for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to do 3 chains, 1, 2, 3. Try and make them loose so that we've got as much space as we need, and we're going to skip 3 stitches at the bottom. Then we're going to do our amount of stitches between, which for me is going to be 11. So that's 1, 11. And then we're going to again do 3 chains, nice and loose, please. Nice and loose, so that we have plenty of space to work with. 1, 2, 3, skip 3 and work into the next double crochets. So that should be 5 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have made the actual holes for our buttons. We're going to turn, and then we're going to work across, and we are going to work into the back loop of the button chain of the chain. So we're going to do our 5 stitches to start off with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to work into the back loop of the chain. So we do need to kind of rotate the chain slightly so that we can see the front loop and the back loop. So what's obvious to us really is the bumps, but we're not going in the bumps. We're going to rotate the chain slightly, and we're going into the back loop here. Now the first one, as you can see, is a little bit tiny. We're doing our double crochet into the back loop of that chain, back loop of that chain, and back loop of that chain. But then we're going to carry on using double crochets for the rest of the stitches in between the button bands, and I'll see at the next one. So here we are, just coming up to the next buttonhole. So we're going into that last double crochet before the chain, and then we're going to rotate slightly, because at the moment we can only see the back of the chain and we want to see the front so that we can do. And again, that first one has gone teeny tiny, so just be careful as you're doing that. So that first one is teeny tiny, but we're trying to just go through the back loop. Might be fiddly. It's more fiddly because I'm looking through the camera. There we go. So we're going into the back loop, doing our double crochet. The other two are much easier to find, partly because we've already twisted the chain. So there we go. 1, 2, 3 in the back loops, and then we'll just go straight on with the ordinary double crochets here. Now after you've done this row, so that's row 6, you've got row 7, 8, 9 and 10, so 4 more rows to do just straight double crochets. So I will show you, okay, I will show you when I've got to the end of that. Now you can see that on these chains, you can see why we've gone into the back loop. You can see this nice little loop here. We can see the loops nice and clearly for when we are going to be working the other way. So when we're coming along with our other stitches, we'll be able to see those stitches to work into them easier. That's why we've gone into the back loop, to twist those chains around so that we can see those loops really nice and clearly when we come back to them on when we're doing the front part of the buttonhole. But I will see you at the end of this. We have just finished doing our back part of our button band with our nice little holes in there for our buttons, and so we're going to work on the front. This is the bit that's going to be most visible, and it's done so that it looks a bit more like ribs. The reason we've stuck with the plain one on the back is just so that it gives us a nice strong back and it's nice and easy to do. So our first row is going to be pretty much the same as it was for the back, but we're starting at the opposite end. So where you may have started, you should have started at the top for this side. We're going to start at the bottom on this side, and we're going to do a standing double crochet, standing double crochet, and then 1 double crochet in each double loop of the surface crochet. So that means that we're actually going to try and get under 2 loops, remembering these are a wee bit tighter than the back ones because they've already got something in there. So doing a standing double crochet, sorry, if you didn't know how to do that, we're going to do a standing double crochet by putting the loop on our hook, inserting under here, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over through the 2 loops. Okay, and then we're going to go down here to the next one, underneath the 2 strands, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, and we're going to carry on like this to the end of the row. So nothing different on this first row, we're just working double crochets, but we're working under both loops of that surface crochet that we have already done. And I will see you at the other end. It is very wise to check your stitches before, when you've finished your first row, and make sure you've got the same amount as the other side. I realized that I'd actually missed one right at the end here, and it was really tiny and tight to get into. So do just double check that you have exactly the right amount of stitches before you go on. So then we're going to do our next second row, which is front post half treble. So in our very first stitch, we're going to do our front post half treble. So we're going to do yarn over, go round the back, kind of the edge of the stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and through all 3 loops, and then you're going to do it in between each of the stitches. So we're going in between there and in between there, yarn over. Now I like to bring it down so that it's over the other side of these 2 loops here, pull it through, yarn over through all 3 loops. It does seem a little fiddly to start with, but actually you do get into quite a nice rhythm with it, as with much crochet. In between, so that you've got the post there, and through. So yarn over, in between, so you're going right next to where you've just worked. So you've worked through those 2 holes, so you work through the same hole again and round. So we've done our very first one right at the beginning around the first post. Even though it doesn't look quite right at the moment, it will work itself out. Yarn over, bit of a wiggle there. So I will see you at the end of this row. So I've got 2 more stitches to do, and you can see that I've got 2, well, I've actually sort of got 3 holes. So yarn over 2 more stitches, 1, and the last one goes in here, so that we have a little tiny loop at the end, okay, which is to nothing. Okay, then we're going to do 1 chain, and our next row is 1 back loop double crochet in each stitch to the end, which we have been doing with our ribs. So nothing new here, we're just going to do our back loop double crochets all the way along to the end. So we're now going to do probably the trickiest part of the button band, and that is where we are going to match our stitches on the inside part of the button band with the outside part of the button band. Okay, here is where it is a really good idea to be just counting the whole way through, just to make sure that you don't make any mistakes. So we're going to do one chain and then one front post half treble in each double crochet until we're adjacent to the hole. So that means that we've got 5 stitches that we need to do. So the first one goes in the end, so it kind of comes from the outside and goes in, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and then we're going into this one, which is our second one, then our third. Now I'm saying 5 because that's what I worked out that I'm doing here. So I've done 1, 2, 3. We're going to do number 4 and number 5. You can see it does get a bit twisted up a little bit on this row, but there we go. The 5. Okay. What we need to do now is to fold this front piece so that we can see the stitches there. Okay, so we've actually kind of folded it in half along that stitch line so that we can see those 3 stitches there. Okay, and we're going to work our next 3 front post half trebles through the 2 loops of the bottom of the hole and around the post of the double crochet. So we're going to do yarn over, insert underneath those 2 strands, and then we're going to find where our next post is, and we're going in around that post, yarn over, pull through all of those, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. I'll show you very close up on all of those. So it's yarn over, in underneath those 2 loops, and then in this back piece we're working around that post still. So yarn over, pull it through where the post is and through underneath those 2 loops there, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and one more time, yarn over, in through there, in through, and you see where the hole has become a bit bigger where we've already done a stitch. So we're going in there and in there, yarn over and pull it through everything. Sometimes it gets a bit stuck. If it gets a bit stuck, just undo it, do it again, not a problem. Okay, that's what's nice about crochet. So yarn over, in under 2, catch that back loop like so, whoops, there, yarn over, pull it through everything, and then yarn over through there. Then we're going to do our 11 before we get to our next buttonhole. So we're going to do 11 front post half trebles. So our next one is there, just again in the front. So in between the buttonholes, we're just working on the front part there. Okay, and I will see you in a moment. Okay, so I have one more stitch before I'm going to do the buttonhole. It does look a long way away for the moment, but it won't be in a minute. So we're just doing one more back post, front post half treble, and then we're going to bring up this here, fold it in half so that we can see those 3 chains. Now be careful, you don't want to be going on the front parts of those chains there, we want to be on this bottom half. So that's why I kind of recommend folding it in half, because it's slightly easier to see. So we're going to do our yarn over, We're going to insert, can you see that's where the join is, and that's where the skipped stitches are. So you can see those 3 little hearts. And then we're going to go post, yarn over, pull through and through there, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Then it's yarn over into the next one, post, oops, wrong place, post, and then through all 3, and then the last one of these going in, post, yarn over, pull through all of that, and then through there. And then we've got 5 stitches to the end. And I will see you on the next row. Just be careful when you're doing that, not to go too far down. That's the back loop. This is where the post is there. That's the post part. Careful you don't go in the back loop. For row 5, we're going to do 1 chain, and then we're going to do a back loop, double crochet until we get to the hole. So counting again is really quite crucial. So I'm going to do the chain. So we're doing back loop, double crochets. So we're going to do 5 of those to start. Now we're going to look at the top part of the buttonhole. So we're going to do the next 3 DCs through the next 3 loops of the chain on the other side of the band, and we're going to actually skip the 3 on the row that we're working on. So we're actually going to do our back loops up here, and we're going to do 1 and 2. You see those are the ones, the loops that we left, and 3. They're kind of really the front loops, I guess. We're going to skip the 3 that are underneath, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to carry on our back loops in the front 11. So that's our 11th one in between. That's just for me, you will have your own calculations. So then we're going to go and look at the inside part. So we're lined up, ready to go, and we're actually going to do our crochets into these 1, 2, 3 loops that we left when we were doing that 5th row of the inside of the cardigan. Okay, so we've got our 3 loops there, all nice, ready, waiting. You can't see any loops this side. I don't think you can see any loops on this side. So it's these 3 loops here, and we're literally just doing our double crochets into those 3 loops, just straightforward double crochet into those 3 loops. It's a single loop each time, and then we carry on with the back loop double crochet. So we're going to skip those 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to carry on in our back loops here, which for me will be another 5. And what you should be able to see is that we now have our little pocket, if you like, where you can see that the button band is really nice and neat, but it's also kind of covered by these stitches, so that when it's not done up, you actually won't see that button band, the buttonholes at all. They kind of just disappear into the rib. Row 6 as a front post half treble, and then row 7 we're actually going to do the band. So we've got 2 more rows to go. I'm going to do the front post half trebles for row 6, and then I'll join you. We're now on the final row of the button band, the final row of the Catdigan, we've done our chain and we've turned, and what we're going to do is we're going to work into the back loop here of the front, but both loops of the back. So we're going to work like so, come through both of those, and then yarn over and pull through. So we're working a double crochet. Now be careful, because you will want to try and get into this front loop here. We're not, we're going into the back loop, and then we're going into both of those loops on the back. Yarn over and pull it through to the front, finish off our double crochet. So going again, back loop, both loops, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through two. We're going to carry on until we get to the end, and we're just doing the last couple of stitches. There. And then we're going to fasten off at the end, and I would recommend leaving a long tail. So I would actually recommend leaving a long tail at the beginning as well as the end, so that you can sew over the edges with the main colour. So this tail at the end, if this is long enough, the only finishing off we need to do is just tuck all those ends in, and then just over sew at the edges at the top and at the bottom, and then you will have your button band with holes. Now once it's blocked, it will all flatten out, smooth itself out, so that it's nice and even. But I think it's a really nice even button band, and I think the fact that you can't see even with a contrast colour, you can't really see the colour behind. I mean, you can on that because it's a bit darker, but on this one where it's lighter, you can't see the background colour at all, even though it's grey. There's my two little holes. And once you've got a button on, it'll be putting the button through. The button will hide anything from the back. Thank you for watching these tutorials. I hope you've enjoyed them and found them useful. If you would like to purchase the Catdigan pattern, then please go to my website at thecrochetchain.co.uk for more details.